Turn on that radio and back here. The cops ain't likely to catch up with us, not tonight. So we can all be quiet and peaceable and listen to the music.
This episode of Auto Dealer Live is brought to you by TrueCar.
Man. What's up, Cribs?
How you doing, Mr. Villa?
I'm doing wonderful, man. How are you?
Oh, man, great day, feeling great coming back from Digital Dealer 24 and excited to be back in the studio on the air.
Yeah, me too. And you know, it seems like the office is the last place or the least place that I've been. And you know, I was traveling last week. Spoke a couple of times at Digital Dealer, 3 times, and then had to do an event at Influence Orlando. Then came back and did an event with some business owners here in Tampa. I know you had a couple of events going on, and was back in the office Monday. Went back out again Tuesday, came back in Wednesday and Thursday. So it's just been very busy. But man, you know what? Busy to me, when it's the proper busy, it equates to business. Busy, right? Can mean busy can mean business, or busy can mean, like, I'm wasting money.
Yeah.
Right? There's 2 different kinds.
Absolutely. And I think anytime that you're in a conversation with a potential customer, client, then you're open for business, whether that's away from the office or not. But when you're not in front of a client or not talking with a client,
right,
mostly you're closed.
Yeah, absolutely. And and I think that you can't get time back, man. And that's the thing that I always talk about. I do a lot, and it really, the older I get, and I guess really the busier I get. It's not really the older, the busier. We launched something here called Preferred Access, and if you guys want to check it out, it's preferredaccess.tv. Preferredaccess.tv. The reason I'm throwing that out there, without shame, we normally don't plug anything. It's because of this. It's not because of the product that's attached to it for our company. Mm-hmm. That's the least of it. The reality of it is we want to help people.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know. I know you enough. I've known you for years now, and I know that you and I have spent countless days and days and days and hours. It's not even fair to say hours, days, weeks, months here together, and then hours outside of here, even since you've officially left here, a couple of years ago. We spent countless hours together, and I know your heart. You want to help people. If it were about the money, you could go do a lot of things, right, to make the money, but it's about helping people. So I look at it as you can't get time back. And, when I look at how many hours I have in a week, and I don't want to sacrifice my family, I don't want to sacrifice my wife, my marriage, I don't want to sacrifice that, right? That's a priority to me, legacy. But how do I impact more people? And so you have to create ways outside of time. Right? You have to find ways and create ways. See, this makes sense to kind of multiply time, not just multiply it, but watch it kind of like exponentially grow. Right?
Yeah, you have to leverage it.
Leverage? Ooh.
Yes, you have to. You have to leverage it in your favor. You can parlay a lot of things together.
Ooh, 2 words.
Oh no!
Cribs just said leverage a parlay. It sounds like a dessert. Like, hey, sir, you had the steak. What would you like for dessert? I'd like to have the leverage parlay. It sound like a dessert, Tria?
I've always liked that.
Sound like a parlay.
Maybe we could parlay.
Does anybody even know what that means? Like, I know what it made sense in a sentence. I know what leverage means. Leverage is like, taking taking the ability to lift more than you're capable, like an ant.
Yeah.
But what's parlay mean?
Well, parlay means you can take something and multiply it, turn it into many things just by leveraging, basically. So,
Go ahead, parlay.
But when you were talking about the time and, as we get older, I don't even think it's about that in the context that we're really speaking of it. We're talking about, you could be 20 years old, 21, 22, and, if you're growing, time becomes so valuable that, and it's not just that your time's valuable, but it's understanding what you can do with that time. So you don't want to waste a moment. So
Absolutely.
and for our dealers out there and people who are growing in the auto profession, we know that you understand that. So time is precious, and staying active and staying in front of clients and reaching clients. If you're doing that, you know what, Dave, actually, let me just throw this out there real quick. I decided this morning, I won't talk about goals anymore. I don't want to set any goals.
Talk to me about that.
Well, I don't want to set
Talk to me about that without talking about goals.
Okay.
Try that one.
Okay.
For size.
All right. I don't want to predict or say that I'm going to do something in the future when it comes to results. When it comes to results, what I do want to say and what I have committed to are the actions, the productivity, getting in front of.
Go ahead.
You know, when the producer's whispering in your, this is weird.
No, I got it. Go ahead.
Okay.
So good.
Okay.
So talk about, because it's interesting that what you're even beginning to talk about to me. I hate using words that are overused.
Yes.
That lose their meaning.
Sure.
You believe in the word goals, but it's the misuse of the word.
It's the misuse. You're right. You're right. And that
unfortunately, it makes you and I find other words to use.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. That's absolutely
It really
true.
is unfortunate.
And it wraps around this psychology or this idea that, I'm going to say that I want to be here at this time next year, or I'm going to do this. Well, all of that can come as the byproduct of what you're willing to do action-wise on a daily basis. Picking up, just like our guys here in the sales team, we nickname it the boiler room, not because it's anything negative, but because
it's hot.
Because it's hot. Every day they get in there and they pick up that phone one time, again and again and again and again and again. And it's that. It's not saying I'm going to sell X amount and that's what I'm going to do today. No, it's, hey, how many times can I pick up that phone, engage with a customer? And if I do that every day and don't even pay attention to the board, I'm going to probably become very wealthy.
Yeah, absolutely. And a couple of things, guys. Yeah, I'm with you, Cribs. I hate misusing words. I hate overusing words. Listen, unfortunately, you have to find new descriptions and ways to describe where you are and what you feel. I believe in goals, but I only like the fact that goals exist because I want to hit them. Right? I don't want to miss them. I don't want to throw them out there. It's like, sometimes we just loft it up in the air, and a goal is not meant to be lofted. A goal is meant to be targeted and hit. A couple of things really quick, guys, that you need to know about. First of all, we want to thank you guys for listening. I see Terrell Lake and Ivan Velasquez and Jose Dabdub. And we've got Johnny Murray and multiple people. Brad Weiss, who's going to be on the show in just a moment. You guys are listening. Mike Phillips, what's up, my friend? Tony Washington, Tito, Mr. Keys himself. Listen, we've got a great group of people that have joined in. Sheila, what's up? I know that we've got a great show today, and we're going to be talking about, trust me, I was a dealer. We're going to talk about what that means in a minute. Share the show. If you share the show, this is what we're going to do for you. We've got some swag to give away. We're going to give away, Lou, tell Kim to bring over a couple of hats. Tell her to surprise me, all right? We got some new hats in. I'm wearing one of them right now. It's a Serial Sales Pro hat.
It's a signature series, right?
All of our hats are signature series. They got my signature on them. I don't know, you may not even want that. I don't know, but just bear with me. You're going to get it. We're going to give away some hats. We're also going to give away this, okay? This is going to be a package deal. We're going to throw in some ADL stuff, some swag from me from here at IPD. But in addition to that, we're giving away 5. Say it with me. Ready? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 tickets. Compliments of Rockstar and Flick Fusion. 5 tickets to the Rockstar Conference that's coming up. Listen, guys, they want you to know that Auto Dealer Live and Rockstar are joined together. Flick Fusion, who is the sponsor of this show, 5 tickets are going to, and here's all you have to do. Everybody that clicks share. Let me say it this way. Anybody who clicks share. If a Sasquatch logs on right now, right, and they're logging on from Sasquatch page, and nobody can find it because it's a Sasquatch, right? It doesn't exist. And an abominable snowman logs on, Santa Claus and the Easter Bunny.
Lou, you're missing your opportunity. We should have images up there when we talk about those things.
No one knew I was going to say this, including me. So, all fairness to our producer. Sasquatch, abominable snowman, Easter Bunny, Santa Claus, all of you share it. Guess what? One of you 4 are going to be entered in. All of you 4 are going to be entered in to the drawing. At the end of the show, we're going to announce the 5 winners of Rockstar Auto Tickets plus swag
I love it. What
From
location is that next Rockstar event?
Vegas.
Vegas. Tickets to Vegas? Are you kidding me?
I got to be honest with you. Go to Rockstar, and if you
right.
decide not to go at the last minute, go to the slot machine.
Where can I find the show?
It's Vegas, baby.
Where can I find the show?
Auto Dealer Live.
Auto Dealer Live.
On
Gotcha.
our Facebook page.
All right, I'm gonna.
Our website, autodealerlive.net.
Do I have to join? What do I have to do? What's it?
You just got to share. You just got to share. You just got to share. All right, so we're going to bring our guest on here in just a minute, and what a great start to this show. Make sure you help us out and share the show. If you don't want to go to Rockstar, do us a favor, share the show. You win the tickets. You can just defer them to someone else. Share the show. Let's get this party started the right way. We got a phenomenal show. Dave, before we bring them on, we're going to go to commercial here in about 30 seconds, but really quick, before we do. Trust me, I was a dealer once. Now, when you see that, what do you think? When you see that, what in the world comes to your mind? We got Chris Hayek, who was a GSM of Lexus of Kendall. By the way, in Kendall, which is outside of the suburb of Miami, that is probably the number one, if not one of the top 3 or 4 Lexus stores in the country.
It's yes.
Boom, they're smacking it.
It's huge. It is absolutely enormous. The store is enormous.
And then Brad Wise, who is a
Wise.
friend of ours.
Yes, just absolutely killing it here in
Boom.
Brandon, Florida, setting records at a store that's been here. They've been in
Since
business.
Moby Dick was the minnow.
They have
Like a little minnow.
We're not kidding. This literally was like a horse and buggy store. It truly was.
Like, where did you buy your stagecoach? Furman.
No,
That's where Brad Wise is now.
That used to be their logo, if I'm not mistaken. I mean, this store's been here
It was
like
either
over
that or a horse.
It's been here
It
like
might have been a
100.
horse.
It's been here like 100 years.
Yeah,
I'm
like
not
a
kidding.
Clydesdale
It's
was
literally
their logo originally. Furman Clydesdale.
Yeah, Furman Clydesdales.
Buy your Clydesdale at Furman.
Yeah, the Clydesdales were high end, like sort of like.
And
the
guess what?
Cadillac.
Brad Wise crushes it and has
Crushes
broken
it.
records December, January, February, March, and on his way to April.
Yeah.
This is knocking out the park. He's going to be on our show here in just a second.
Yes. And
We got Patrick O'Brien, man.
Patrick O'Brien, another winner on the show
Patrick
today.
is, listen, I knew he was strong. I knew he was stronger than New Rope when I met him, right? And listen, but here's what I had to go by. I had to go by what other people said and what Patrick said. And then the fact that I just felt it and discerned it. Now I know. Ask me how I know.
How do you know, Dave?
How do I know Patrick is the strongest secondary manager that I personally know?
How do you know, Dave?
Because we did a sale with Eddie Chevrolet, where Patrick is currently, and this guy messaged me every day on Facebook telling me how many cars he sold off our mailer. I'm going to tell you, and it wasn't a small amount. It was like, boom, this many today. The next day, boom, this many. He did that more than, dude, it was amazing. This guy is on top of it, and he literally can hang paper better than the guy that used to work for Winnebago.
Better than the guy in Winnebago?
The guy that used to hang that paper on the Winnebago, the old school Winnebago as a wallpaper back then.
yes, I remember
I
that.
just pulled that out.
That's awesome. Well, Dave, this is a great topic. I am really excited. There's a couple of reasons.
But then we do have a vendor, by the way.
Okay.
Social media.
Oh, yes, I'm sorry.
Social media. Robin Wilson, she is a social media freak
yes.
at SCP Agency. She used to be a dealer. And then we have Brett Oob. Brett Oob owns 5 stores, buying a 6th store as we speak, a Toyota store. It's under contract now. But here's the deal. He was with Autotrader.com, also with Who's Calling. So Brett was on the vendor side.
He wasn't just on the vendor side. If I remember correctly, Brett led the way with AutoTrader on the vendor side. So that's going to be a great, and now is a dealer, owner of multiple stores. So that's going to be a great perspective. And Dave, what I love about...
Talk about sharing real quick.
All right, yes. Make sure that you share. Check out these designer hats. These designer hats have gone for upwards of...
$30.
Upwards of complimentary from Auto Dealer Live. But they are
Sales
really
pros
cool.
get paid.
They're really cool. They'll be recognizable when you go to the conferences and you're wearing them. People will know that you're in tune with Auto Dealer Live.
hat.
And the cool thing is that those of you who are watching today, do you realize, Dave, almost our entire audience, obviously this is an industry show, but almost our entire audience is either a dealer working at a dealership or they are a vendor. So this topic is amazing because it hits home with literally every single person watching the show today. We're going to hear some great things. And I think, Dave, as a dealer, I'll share this real quick before we go to commercial break and bring our guest on. But I know that when you maybe bring up as a vendor, when you call a dealer and you bring up the fact that you're a dealer, and typically when I would call on a dealer, I would only do this working, here with IPD when I would call as a vendor. I would only bring that up later in the conversation because The reason is, Dave, when you call up, the first thing a dealer thinks when you start talking about you were a dealer is, oh, so you couldn't make it on this side of it. So
I want to ask the guys about that too.
Now, I don't know if that's a fair assessment because we have seen those who have been rock stars on both sides. So I don't want to make light of that.
Well, it's not a fair assessment, but it's a perception.
But
it's a reality.
Yeah, it's a reality that happens. So,
are you ready to get these guys on?
Oh man, I am so ready. I'm fired up. So
30 seconds, Lou. Is that how much the break? How long the break is?
Minute and a half.
Okay, 90 seconds. All right, we'll be back in 90 seconds. Don't go anywhere. We've got them on the horn as we speak, and we're going to talk about, trust me, I was
a dealer.
Hey everybody, this is Mikey. Today I want to share an exciting new feature with you from our sponsors over at FlickFusion. It's called VidMail. Look, in today's digital world, you can no longer rely on regular emails. Customers will either forget about them, lose them, or just completely ignore them altogether. So how can we solve this problem? Well, it's absolutely imperative that you add video to your emails if you ever hope to grab the attention of the modern customer. That's where FlickFusion can help. This top-notch video marketing team has just one goal, which is to provide you with fresh customers who are excited about coming into your dealership. They have an innovative service that can increase both your appointment percentages and show rates for your dealership. So what they do is combine traditional email with video marketing in order to captivate prospects and then direct them to your sales team. VidMail, you can even go mobile, from any device to any device, with both texting and live streaming capabilities. So why don't you check out FlickFusion's VidMail today at flickfusion.com and see how it can transform your digital advertising.
And today we're talking about, trust me, Dave, I was a dealer.
Missed. I was trying to hit that garbage can. I'm about 50%. Halfway.
Yeah.
I'm going to bring them on. You got the question ready? You got it locked and loaded?
Yeah, let me look up and see if we have questions.
We have he's too many stores to mention. He owns 5 dealerships. He is a dealer principal, a leader, a great car guy, used to be a vendor, and amazing friend, good guy, Brett Oob on the horn. We've got Chris Hayek, General Sales Manager of Lexus of Kendall, one of the strongest Lexus stores in the country. We have Robin Wilson. She's a social media freak. That's what she calls herself. That's the title.
I love it.
SCP agency. We have the General Manager of Furman Chevrolet Mazda right here in the great city of Tampa / Brandon, Florida. The man, the myth, the legend. He's not only Wise, that's his name, Brad Wise. And we have the Director of Internet Sales at Eddie's Chevrolet Cadillac, the strongest secondary manager. So strong that everyone watching that could hire him will want to. Patrick O'Brien. Dave, that's the intro of all intros right there, baby.
That is the intro of all intros. Now he's going to have job offers coming in from all over the country. So welcome to the panel, everyone. And I'm going to go ahead and get started with our friend Brett Oob. Brett, you have been on both sides of the fence. I mean, you're a dealer in multiple stores, but you were a rock star on the vendor side with Auto Trader. And if there's anyone that can probably sniff out something that doesn't sound right, it's you. So let's talk about when a vendor calls you, Brett, now with having that experience on both sides. You know, how does a vendor get your attention, and is it a good idea for them to bring up that they came from the auto business or the retail side? Go ahead.
I mean, I'm coming from both outside sales and now inside sales. I mean, my suggestion would be to anybody who's going to make a sales call is that you got to come up with a 30-second hook that's going to make them feel like whatever you've got is going to solve a current issue. If you start talking about you came from a dealership, it's kind of like the Charlie Brown where it goes womp, 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 and they just kind of turn off, they don't listen. And really what's going to get that time is what's in it for me, and how is that going to translate in a short burst to get that next 5 to 10 minutes to really talk about your program, if that makes any sense.
Hey, Brett, real quick, I just got a quick follow-up, Brett, because you and I have talked a lot about this, and I remember you have made this comment to me, I mean, no less than probably 6, 7 times in the last couple years. So I want to ask you about it because it has to do with this. You know, we various conferences and things that we've gone to and met at, you've mentioned to me that, dealers don't mind being, quote, pitched. You know, you talk about that a lot. And you said that, listen, a lot of dealers don't necessarily know what to do, and they don't mind being pitched. They just want to be pitched right. I mean, weigh in on that a little bit, because I think that, you know, this whole vendor deal.
What you're saying is you want a quality sales presentation about something that has a value, not just being, hey, would you consider buying my program? It has to be something where you've done some kind of internal research into what my store does, what your product does, and how you could solve an issue that I currently have, and put that in an articulation where that's gonna paint a word picture in my mind and see myself using that product, if that makes sense. And I don't think dealers, I mean, most of the dealers that I know and have become acquainted with, we're all looking for creative ways to get an edge. What we don't want is the Me Too people that are just coming in as time bandits.
It's good.
Yeah, let's go to Brad Wise. And Brad, you just heard Brett say, you know, you better have a 30-second pitch that's going to grab my attention really quick. You know, I think as car guys and car gals, we have been conditioned to size things up really fast. But, you know, from the vendor perspective, you know, dealers move quickly and they're always busy, and getting in front of them is not the easiest task. And if you're calling on the phone, maybe share, Brad, an approach that gets your attention, at least enough to slow you down for a moment. Maybe there's a style of approach you like, or a way that you receive a call. Weigh in, Brad.
Well, I appreciate you having me on the show. I listened to the show, and that intro that you gave me was not worthy of. So, but I appreciate that.
But it's true. It's true, Brad. But it's true.
When I heard about the premise of the show today, I'd never really given much thought to someone who was on the dealer side and then eventually moved to the vendor side. I mean, if you're just asking my opinion, I never really gave it much thought. I think it would be an advantage for someone who's had in my share to understand the pressures and the flies that fly over your head all day long. And, you know, I wouldn't necessarily think that the person couldn't cut it in the dealership world, and now they're in the vendor side, but that vendors have, because, you know, getting in front of a decision maker is not an easy thing. I mean, I have a certain glare that I give when someone comes in, and I just happen to have been in the area, but I have great friendships and connections with vendors over the years. I mean, very personal relationships, and I think that's the key, is that they have to come off in a way that they're here of service, even if it has nothing to do with the scope of what they're selling, that they're here to help, that they're adding value. So the relationships that I've cultivated with vendors over the years are usually people are like-minded, who I at least think in all aspects of my business, and not just the product that they represent. So just today, in our sales meeting, we were talking about our prospective guests, you know, in a creative way, fun way, dynamic way, you know, breaking through the clutter. I'll give you one small example. One vendor one time did their research. They called the switchboard and asked what Brad's, you know, favorite. And then he came by Dunkin' Donuts with 2 creams and 2 sugars, and he holds it in his hand. And of course, I gave the guy 30 cents. But to just, you know, attack me in the showroom, you know, when I had a very pensive meeting, you know, you got to be ready for that to happen, but you can't give up. So it's all across the board. You know, it's a crowded space, trying to get front of everybody. I think the bottom line is nowadays, at least for me, is to be creative and add value.
That's good. That's good, Brad. And I got a follow-up question, and I'll go to Chris, General Sales Manager at Lexus of Kendall, on this. You know, you heard what Brett said, Chris, and Brett's a dealer, and you heard what Brad said, and you got a general manager there. Obviously, you fall into that same, you know, general wheelhouse. You're on the receiving end of a presentation or solicitation from a vendor. So let's move it down the field a little bit, Chris, and let's talk about whether you're a dealer before or not. Really, that's kind of irrelevant in some ways. Let's say you're calling on dealers, or let's say that you're looking for something, because here the deal is that the automotive industry, okay, differently than maybe a lot of other industries out there, and similar to some but different than a lot, receive phone calls, have advertising budgets, have, you know, this unique, you know, setup, Dave, where they spend money, right, And it's almost on a monthly basis in some capacity. I mean, even some of the companies that prefer contracts and prefer long-term agreements have issues getting that from a dealer because it's such a volatile, flexible, month-to-month business that, you don't want to put too much investment down the road into because you're looking at, hey, this has got to be able to move the needle. And so when somebody contacts you, whether they've been in the business on the blacktop retail side or not, how important is it that they know your industry, Chris? How important is it that they understand, really your objectives? I'll give you, before you answer that, I'll give you a quick example. We have a silhouette here we call the silhouette of a decision maker. It has no face because it doesn't matter what color, what size, what gender, it is just the decision maker. It could be any one of you, it could be anyone else. But that decision maker in the auto business cares about, in my opinion, cares about their pay plan, being number one in their market, meeting the expectations of the OEM, keeping their salespeople busy. They care about, all of these types of things, right? Beating last month, right? Increasing their revenue.
You are muted.
And so my question is...
You can mute or unmute yourself
what is that?
By pressing *6.
So I'm not sure if you guys hear that or not, but anyway, so Chris, let me ask you this, man. What does that look like? How important is it for that vendor to understand that aspect of your business?
That's a great question, and I think it's super important that they understand, the aspect of kind of what we're going through on a day-to-day basis. And I think somebody hit the nail on the head when they said, car people usually recognize car people. So, whether you're on the vendor side or whether you used to be a dealer and you're on the vendor side, or you're a dealer, we're pretty good at kind of knowing what a car person is. And that certainly helps. I mean, if the vendor knows, which you could usually pick up right away, am I in a room or am I talking with a car person or am I, talking to somebody that just didn't make it? We identify that pretty quick. What I usually do is, especially in my market, everybody's got the next best thing that they're going to pitch and is going to, put me number one in the market and blow up my sales. The first thing I usually say is no. And then, one or two things happens at that point. Somebody says, hey, thanks, and they walk out. Or, they'll overcome the objection. And I know if they overcome the objection and they're trained, then I know that, hey, maybe this is somebody I need to talk to a little bit further.
Okay, I got to do a quick follow-up because I know Chris has got a question. I want to go to Patrick and Robin. But, okay, Chris, that fires me up. And Brett and Brad can weigh in. And just really quick as we stay kind of in this GM, dealer, GSM, decision-maker kind of deal. And I know Patrick makes decisions like that as well. Real quick before we move on, I love what you just said, Chris, because I've asked a multiple, and Brett's one of them because we're friends, multiple decision makers that are in the place of you guys that make decisions, okay, on advertising and different types of vendor programs, what they respect. And I love the fact that you just said, what I translate that into, Chris, is I want to buy from a salesperson, not a shyster, not someone who's going to rip me off, but someone who believes enough in their product that's going to overcome the objection because I believe in a cold call. I believe in the fact that, that you're always going to be busy. I mean, heck, I'm busy. I don't know a time. I mean, if someone calls me at my house at 8 o'clock at night and I'm sitting down in my pajamas watching TV, I'm busy, right? I mean, if I don't know you, I don't really know a time when I want to talk to somebody. So my point is, if you can push through that, and I love what you just said. So, my question back to the three decision makers, and maybe one of you guys can weigh in. How important is that when somebody, not with the cockiness?
It's super important. Before I talk to you, I'm going to make you push through that. And if you can't push through that, then I'm going to lean toward, that's somebody that doesn't push hard enough, and whatever they're selling, whatever it is, I'm not interested. I got to be. I want somebody to push through the objections because it's just a rough, tough market.
Yeah.
So if I tell you no, and you turn around and walk out of my showroom,
it's a no.
I'm not really. I know I made the right decision. If I say I'm busy, and I've had them say to it's the best. Come on, man, we're all busy, and I know you're busy, and that's why I'm calling you. Is there 3 minutes when you're not busy tomorrow or later today? I kind of want to listen to that a little bit more because I automatically think, man, if they're selling something and they can overcome the objections that are going to help my sales guys, I want a little bit of that.
Dave, what I hear him saying, man, is he's advocating the fact that this is still a sales industry. And you know what? Here's the thing that Chris didn't say, and he's willing to be okay with it. He may walk away from, or the best product may walk away from him, but he's judging that product based on the delivery and the presentation of the person. This is an industry that's still moved by, hey, it's still moved by emotion to some degree. And
%. And I am so glad that came up, and that should inspire.
And every vendor needs to, that's watching this right now needs to hear it, and every dealer.
Yes, that should inspire vendors. That if you didn't take anything away from this show, that would be a great nugget. And we see it right here. Dave, you're the CEO of this company. You've got a gatekeeper, but I've seen people push through or get your attention, and all of a sudden you want to hire them, right? You respect
I do hire them.
And oftentimes you buy
something
from them.
Or I die trying. Does Brad, I'd be curious to know, Brad or Brett feel the same way about that, just before we move on?
Brett?
Or Brad, do you guys feel the same way about that at all?
I couldn't hear the question. You're breaking up.
That's okay. We'll go to Brett real quick, and just to kind of clarify, Brett, we're talking about the salesperson who maybe gets a no at first but keeps pushing for your time. Is that something that maybe you do gain a little respect and say, okay, you know what, I'll give you 3 minutes at the end of the day?
Well, I think to me, if they don't, then I'm not even going to. I mean, to me, sales is a transference of feelings. That's all it is. And so if somebody doesn't feel convicted and convinced about their product, to me, it's almost like a religious zealot that you see, and they're trying to tell you about their program, and you're telling them no, and they're hanging in there because they feel like if you didn't get what they had, that you're going to be worse off at the end. And that's the way, to me, I felt about sales, and that's the way I felt about sales when I was doing the outside sales work. And so if somebody doesn't put that kind of effort into it, I mean, dealers are serious business people, and when we sign an agreement, it's not to try. It's money that we're investing that we expect a return on. And if somebody's convinced and convicted and trying to help me by hanging in there and putting the effort in, that gets my attention.
That's good.
Yeah, let's get. Thank you, Brett. Look,
is that Brad?
Is that Brad or Patrick?
Yeah, Patrick.
Patrick.
Hey,
Patrick, I was about to go to you, but you can go ahead and comment. Go ahead.
I kind of wanted to piggyback on what was just said. Was, you know, for instance, when we decided to finally make the move and sign up and do an IPD mailer with Dave and Jerry over there, you know, Jerry pushed on us. Dave had to push on us. You guys were so
Pat,
firm in your
Pat made me get involved, man.
It would help push us over the top for last month, that you guys wouldn't let go until we were like, all right, let's rock and roll. And boy, did we ever.
Wow.
So I agree 100%. If the vendor has a product that they're trying to pitch for me and a partnership that they want me to enter into with them, they better damn well believe in it, or I'm not going to.
Oh. That's good.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah, and we appreciate that. That's a great testimony.
It really is. I mean, because you're talking to guys here. You know, this is real important because people cross over to the vendor side. But you know, one of the things that Pat, you and I know a bunch of buddies and people as well, and I'm sure Brad and we'll get to Robin. I promise you, Robin, we're coming your way. But just before I leave this, Chris, Brad, Patrick, Brett, the guys on the dealer side still. You know, we know a lot of people that crossed over into vendor. I know, Brett, you came from there. But ones that cross over, there's an apprehension, right? Pat, you know this. There's an apprehension a lot of times when you get to this side on calling on people that were formerly maybe, figures of, like, for instance, somebody crosses over as an internet manager or as a GSM, and then they have to call the dealer principals or GMs of stores, and there's an apprehension there that they can't get through and pass because I guess they visualize, maybe I know how busy this person was, or I know how they talked about vendors maybe sometimes when I was there. And so that's a very big point as well.
Yeah, or they're still looking at them as a boss in some indirect way. So yeah, that's very challenging. Yep. So let's go to Robin Wilson and bring Robin in on the conversation. And Robin,
she's a freak, by the way. Social media freak.
Well, when you said social media and you follow it by freak, it all fits together because look, social media is about getting the consumer's attention, right? Getting their attention. So let's go to Robin. And Robin, I'm not even going to ask a question at this point. I'm going to give you the opportunity to weigh in.
Say whatever you want.
Well, because there's been so much discussion, I'm sure you probably were chomping at the bits. But go ahead and weigh in, Robin.
Yeah, so I have a couple things. So one thing I absolutely get that Brad said is that GM, GSM, dealership glare, that whole thing where they're just physically intimidating you just by the look, right? So I I've sat across the desk from that and seen that a lot. So I get that. And then my favorite thing that Chris had mentioned too was about saying no, right? So I have a really kind of unique situation because I never intended to work in a dealership, right? I had my agency and we were doing social media, but not for dealerships. And I had a dealership call me, a GM call me, and he was like, I want you to do our social media. And I'm like, okay. So I sent him a proposal, and then he came back with, but you have to work here. And I was like, but I don't want a job, right? I just want to do what I do really well. And he was like, no, you don't know anything about automotive. You have to work here at the dealership. You have to be in-house. And I'm like, holy crap, I don't want a job. And I said, as long as you understand, I'm going to be running my business from your dealership. And he goes, whatever, I'm just telling you that's what you need to be. And so that's kind of how I was like a reluctant dealership coming from the dealership. And so I spent 3.5 years there. And I was actually, when he hired me as a manager. So I literally got to sit at the table with fixed ops and new and pre-owned and learn everything from the inside out and to discover what those pains were. So on the vendor side, whenever I do go to a dealership now, I do understand where those revenue points are that I didn't understand before. He was 9 million% right. But back to what Chris had said, that GM that I worked for had a motto, like if I brought something to him that I thought was the newest, greatest, most fantastic thing that we should have, he would say no 8 times. And I would have to fight for it 8 times to get that thing in front of him because he's like, you don't understand. You have to prove to me why you want me to spend. It's not your money. It's the dealer principal's money. Why do you want me to spend that money? And you would have to prove to him and come back with evidence of other dealerships that have used it and the ROI that they'd had from it. So I know that side of it now. I know that it's not just about spending this dealership's money or even co-op money. You know, it's about, will this return an investment for the dealer principal?
That's the key right there, return on investment, because, you know, the deal is there's so many choices today. There's so many choices today. But, Cribbs, real quick, you know, something I'm fond of, a memory, you know, speaking of just getting hammered by decision makers. I know the dealers, and even Robin will appreciate this because she calls on dealers. The dealers will actually probably love this. I remember when I first started, I mean, I was like 23 years old, you know, wet behind the ear, like skinny little kid, right? Calling on, you know, Brett, you remember calling on GMs back then. You know, they're probably the desk managers back then were making, you know, 40 grand a month. These guys that were fat cats sitting behind back in the mid 90s. And I remember going into a store, if you guys remember the old towers. I'm talking about the real tower. Yeah. The one that was actually called a tower because it was high in the air.
Oh, yeah.
I'm walking in training a rep, you know, and here I am, a young guy. When I'm training a rep and I call on this guy, I won't say his name, but he's still in the car business. And I walk in and I go, hey, and I shook the hand of the tower. I'm reaching up and I go, hey, how are you? I have an appointment with so-and-so at 10. And he goes, yeah, I'm so-and-so. I said, okay, great. And he goes, and my rep standing behind me, and I said, all right, so you want to go to, where do you want to go to present? He goes, no, right here. And he goes, oh, no, go ahead and pitch it right here. So I'm looking up, like he's like 4 feet ahead of me. And I'm looking up in the air, and I got to pitch my program standing up with my stuff in my hands, young, and this guy's like 50 years old at that time. Right. I'm as nervous as a long-tailed cat in a room full of rocking chairs, right? And here's the deal. The guy walks out, Brett, from behind the tower later on. He's like, no joke, he's bald, little short guy like Danny DeVito, literally 4'10". I wanted to punt him across the dealership when I saw how big he was. And I'm like, man, this guy just made me pitch him. I got his business, though. But that's what let me tell you something. That's earning your licks, isn't it?
Absolutely.
Come on, man.
Absolutely. And,
I still got the scar for that.
Yeah, you do. No, you do. That's what helped made you what you are. But hey, let's go back to Brad. You know, I'm so glad that Robin brought this up because I'm gonna ask this of Brad. You know, I would think being a vendor who has not been in the business actually is a pretty significant handicap in a lot of ways because, you know, like Robin mentioned that her dealer required her to come to work there. There's so many nuances that occur in any given day in the dealership that it's really hard to identify with if you haven't really walked through that. So Brad, talk about that. And doesn't that sort of oftentimes create a gap between vendor and dealer? And that's where dealers, you know, come up with a lot of their objections to a particular product because, you know, the vendor may say, well, this is the greatest thing and it does this and this. Well, wait a second, because have you factored in this that we know about here at the dealership? Go ahead, Brad.
I think it depends on the situation. I remember when I took a new position in Michigan and I did not know the market at all, I purposely would seek out vendors and make appointments with them because I wanted to learn about the market. Because they had visited dealer to dealer to dealer, and they knew all the little idiosyncrasies that maybe I didn't know. So if you were somebody who sat in the chair of a general manager before, or a general sales manager, or sales manager, or someone in retail, that perspective was valuable to me. So I was, not that I was using them, which I was, but at the same time, at least it got them the opportunity to earn my business on various things. So for somebody that's new into a market, bringing a vendor in that has some retail experience, I would find is valuable. But then again, somebody who isn't, say, by the automobile business, who has a different background, I think can also be refreshing as well, because you're just dealing with a little bit different type of person who might be have looked at it a little bit differently than the way sometimes you're too close to the fire to see the flame.
Mm-hmm.
So I know I'm kind of flip-flopping. I think it depends product that's being sold. Direct mail or advertising versus, maybe some type of technology. I will say that just yesterday, I've had one in particular person that's probably come in here 10 times, and we're talking about a $250 a month type of service, and the guy won't go away. He's Freddy Krueger. I mean, I've been rude to this guy. He's caught me at the wrong moment several times. And he just happened to strike me on the right day yesterday when the right people were in my office because I was talking about follow-up. I said, follow-up? This guy. Well,
Wow.
This guy is follow-up. And we closed the deal that day.
That's amazing.
Yeah, see, I love that, Brad. I think that's where deals are made right there. And you know what? I really honestly, because the truth of the matter is, man, as long as I'm doing what I'm doing, as long as I've been doing it, and I know you guys, and I know, with the exception of Robin, I don't know her too well, but I know the rest of you, and I know that you didn't get to where you are without making mistakes, and I know the philosophies in which you live life to a degree in business. And Brett, I think that no matter what we do, man, no matter how good you are as a car guy, you don't know it all. And I think that you're aware of that, and that's what makes you successful. And so there's always something that you feel that you can improve upon. So when this person that Brad's talking about just dropped in, and Brad's talking about follow-up, and there's Johnny Boy, right, or Susie Smith, that's there for the 17th time on a $250 program because they believe in it. It's like, you know what? I mean, this is what I'm talking about, and I'd be a hypocrite, right, if I didn't buy this. I mean, there's something to that, Brett, that maybe that's how we buy products sometimes, right? When somebody's so passionate about what they freaking do that it just absolutely rubs off on you.
And as a matter of fact, this same vendor, I said I wanted to, 2 or 3 months ago, I told him that if your product's so great, just give it to me free for 3 months. And then if it's, everything you say it was, I'll pay double. And you know what? He came back with a contract for that, and I still didn't sign. And then he still came back, and he didn't give up.
So you didn't take it for free, but you paid for it.
How much commission could he be making off this for him to spend the gas to come visit me as often?
Right.
It's because he's a salesperson, and he doesn't give up.
Right.
And what I saw in his eyes was what I'm looking for my people.
I'm just surprised you didn't hire him, Brad.
My way of rewarding him for being what I get up every day to looking for.
I'm just surprised you didn't hire him, or has he not started yet? Brett, do you have an opinion on that, Brett?
What went through my mind when I was listening to that was one of the first lessons I learned as an outside salesperson, and it's that if you walked in and somebody signed on your program right away with very little effort, they were less committed than I was, and that was going to be somebody that was probably going to turn into a cancellation, and even worse, probably a terrible referral, because they'll get off of it as quick as they hooked up. And the ones that you fight for is the ones that become your best customers. They're the ones that become your advocates. They're the ones that call you and go, hey, Brad, I got 4 other dealers that I talked to yesterday. You need to give them a call, and they've already laid the groundwork. If that makes any sense. And so that was kind of what went through my mind when he was talking about that as it relates to the salespeople that are listening to this program.
That's good.
Yeah, absolutely. So let's go back to Chris Hayek and give Chris a chance to weigh in.
First off, you made a funny comment when you talked about Danny DeVito coming out of the sales tower. When I first started, my GM actually used to cut the peg legs off of the chairs opposite the finance manager. So then when the customer would sit down in the finance office, they'd be like halfway on the floor. But that brought back a funny memory, the sales towers.
That's awesome, man.
That is terrific.
So, Chris, you're let me ask you this: is it good for vendors to have? I mean, I know this is not just a cut and dry answer, I guess, but maybe weigh in on vendors having, ex-dealers or people with ex-dealer experience on their staff. That maybe understand how dealers work. Is that a win? Is that a loss? Or maybe your experience from that. Do they come in? Are they cocky? Or do they act like they know it all? What's your experience on that and how that crosses over a lot of times? I mean, and what advice maybe with vendors that are watching right now? I know Kerry Wise, TrueCar. We have people watching right now. What should they do? Who should they go after? Should they look for dealer personnel? Should they look for people that really don't have that background that they can train? What's your opinion on that, Chris?
I think it always helps to have somebody on staff, but I think another big thing is it really depends on what product they're selling. I'll tell you a quick story. I got one of my best friends is the best finance manager I ever worked with. He actually has crossed over onto the vendor side of the business. We do some business with him, but when he walks into the store and he talks to the finance managers or our finance director, he's fully capable, and it's without a doubt in my mind that he could step into the box and do the job better than some of the guys that we may have on staff. So that certainly helps because it's an attention getter. When he, talks, he kind of commands the respect, and people understand pretty quickly that he knows what he's talking about. So, that certainly helps. But
I want to weigh in here too when I get a chance.
I think we're pretty quick to be able to determine if something's going to be an asset or a liability. And if it's an asset, it's an asset, and if it's an asset, it doesn't matter if it's if we've been in the dealer world or if they haven't been.
That's good.
Yep. Thank you, Chris. Thank you.
Hey,
Let's go to Patrick.
I wanted to weigh in on this real quick, Dave and Dave. Whether or not having when you're working with a vendor partner, whether or not they have dealership experience on their staff or them themselves, I think depending on what that partnership is going to be, that's really where it makes a difference on whether or not they have experience working in a store or if it's just working with stores. I mean, perfect example. If you have somebody that's going to come in and consult you on sales process, on sales effectiveness, on management training, on things like that, I would absolutely want that consultant to have had some sort of experience in the automotive industry doing those things and achieving high numbers in those roles, in those positions. Now, if we're talking about like a direct mail piece, or for instance, I have literally at my store today, I have Jason Gardner, the CEO of Tacobi, here at my store training my staff on how to make the right phone calls based off his product. All right, he never worked at a car dealership, but this guy knows how to get on the phone and get a hold of these customers and get them to engage, and that's what he's here helping us do. So it really depends on what kind of partnership you're going to have with that vendor, in my opinion, on whether or not they actually have to have dealership experience.
Yeah, that's a great point. We're gonna go back to Brett real quick because I just thought about this, Dave. This is an objection we often hear from dealers. No matter what type of vendor you are, is hey, I'd love to take a look at this, but my budget has spent. My budget's gone for the month or for the quarter or whatever. Hey, call me, whenever. But Brett, as an owner of 5 stores, it's kind of a two-part question. Number one, if the budget is spent, is that just an excuse, or do you really owe it to yourself to look at anything, even if maybe the budget is spent? And the second part of that question is, if you're, as the owner of 5 locations, if your GMs, and I'm not sure if they do, but if they have the power of the pen, how would you want them to respond?
Well, first of all, I mean, let's just face it. That's the same thing from the guys on this side of the desk now, that when the customer says, let me go home and talk to my wife, or let me go home and talk to my husband. I mean, it's really not a real objection. What it is you haven't convinced me to give this stack of money for that stack of benefits, and most people are indirect instead of saying, hey, vendor, I'm not interested based on the information you give me this far. They say that, and they say then when you walk out the door, they tell their GSM or GM, if he comes back, make sure he doesn't see me. And and so that's really that. I mean, the reality of it is we can all make room for something that's going to make or break our effectiveness. And if we see something and say, yeah, that's going to make an impact, we'll move something around to make room. And that's really, to be honest with you, when you're doing trial closing, I've been in front of a lot of dealers as a vendor. They'll start doing it in their head. They'll look at their GM and go, well, we can cancel this and hook him up on that, or we can move that around and stop spending as much of that. And then I know, man, go ahead and get my agreement out and start asking the question, because now is the time. And then secondary to that, yes, our general managers have that, but at the same time, we have a leadership culture. So we all have our level of effectiveness that we're there, and they'll always follow that up with a phone call and go, hey, Brent, let me ask you a question. Let me run this by you. This is something I was thinking about doing. And then but they also know when they hook up on it, they've got 100% accountability, so that they're going to do it, they better be sure it works.
Absolutely, and I want to let Robin weigh in here and ask her a specific question on. I want to talk to her about calling on dealers, and we're going to be wrapping up in just a second. But I want to one question to Pat real quick before we go to Robin, and then we wrap up.
Yeah,
Pat, just from a standpoint of we have rock stars, no pun intended. We're talking about Rockstar AutoCon, and that's coming up as well. We have rock stars that are in this industry, such as you, such as the people that are on this panel, that are leaving the retail side, right? Going into, and my question is, these are really good car people. That's why people are interested in bringing them over. How can we keep these people in the retail side, because the auto business needs them? So I mean, kind of going from a whole reverse flipped inside out role, what would keep some of these very aggressive individuals in the retail side, maybe spinning it around totally? Because you have dealers watching right now, and you have what's your
absolutely, and I love this, Dave. I love this question, and it's a very simple answer. Love them, love your people, care about your people. Don't overwork them. Don't burn them out. Give them time to spend with their families. Pay them well for the job and the performance that they provide for your store, and they will stick around. Most of the time when I see a high-performing vendor, and this is not all the time, okay, but when I see a high-performing automotive person move to the vendor side, and I ask them why, it's generally because they got burnt out from the schedule. They got burnt out from feeling that they don't have a voice. They got burnt out from the fact that they don't feel like they're making a difference within their store anymore, and that's usually because of somebody above them beating them down or browbeating them day in and day out. That's why high effective automotive people leave automotive and go to the vendor world, in my opinion, mostly. Not all the time. There are some vendors that leave, some automotive people that leave the automotive world to go to the vendor side to help these dealers learn to do these things. Okay, I have a very good, very close personal person to me. I'm not gonna pitch anything here, but what she does is she was a extremely high performing automotive person, director of operations for 19 stores, and she left to go and teach other dealers how to be better to not only their people but to their customers as well. And she does very well with that, but she didn't leave because she couldn't do the dealer side or because of the bad things I mentioned. She left because she wanted to teach other dealers how to do the good things that she saw at her group, and she felt like she could help make a difference for those other dealers around the country. And she's doing it day in and day out. So there's two different reasons for it, but I think the main reason and the way to keep them the best is just love them, care for them, and let them know that you have their backs in what that they're trying to do every every day on a day-to-day basis at your store.
Awesome, man. Yeah, I knew you were passionate about that.
I have to jump on that one.
Yeah.
Truer words were never spoken than what Patrick just said. I mean, it is our business plan. I mean, so many good people are leaving the car industry in droves for the reasons that Patrick had said. There's good stores out there and there's bad stores out there, and I doubt there's too many of the good stores would be listening to a program like this anyway.
Right.
But I know that there's a lot of bad stores out there and that are driving a lot of good people out. because look at the turnover in general management or general sales management. You've got 2 months to change the total direction of the dealership, or you're gone, and you're living like that, and you're working the are required, and it takes a very special person to be able to survive in an environment like that. And there's a lot of good people that are leaving, and at least what we're doing here is we're trying to have the very best people and eliminate those stupid things that we've done for the last whatever long time we've been in the business, that so we don't lose people like that, because they really are our greatest asset, and we don't want to lose them over just the way we've always done it.
That's good.
Yeah,
That's good, guys.
Great culture, great words spoken by both of our panelists there. We're going to be wrapping it up. It's been jam packed. And thank you all for your patience in getting the comments in. We're going to go to Robin Wilson first, and we'll do closing comments. And at the end, if you want
anything you want to say, Robin.
anything you want to say, and then real quickly, if you want to give out contact information, that's fine as well. Go ahead, Robin.
Absolutely. So back to what Patrick was saying about culture too, I just wanted to touch on that and say that that's one of the things that's so important to all of the dealerships that I work with too. And whenever I transitioned out of the dealership, and I did transition out, I actually retained them as a client. But one of the things that the dealership that I grew up in and cut my teeth on basically was that the culture was so strong that from now on, I only work on a referral basis. I only take dealerships on a referral basis, and their culture is the number one thing that I look for whenever I decide whether we're going to go in and help them with their social media. Is if they have a bad company culture, then I spend all my days putting out fires, and I just don't have the time for that. I'm really there to affect change, not to defend a really bad company culture. And one of the things that I thought was really cool, we were talking about following up too, because I work on a referral basis only, I have dealerships that I have been prospecting since November, like just to get on a call with them that have been referred to me. And I don't stop. Like I have a little book that I work through, and I go through and recontact them all the time. And I finally reached out to a dealership I've been talking to since November, and I told them, I'm like, if you will finally take my call, I said, I promise to come to your dealership and teach all your salespeople how to do follow-up, because apparently this is something novel to you. And he literally just picked up the phone and called me right back then. So it's so important to any of the vendors that are listening out there that if you are not passionate about your product, get into another one. If you are passionate about it, then keep following up, because you know those dealerships that need your help. You've already done your research. And if anybody wants to find me, they can email me at robin@socialclimberpro.com, or they can find our website, socialclimberpro.com.
Awesome.
Thank you so Robin much, Wilson. Robin. Thank you so much. And I love that. And you know what? I think that what basically she said, we do that, we apply that here. And you heard it from Chris, you heard it from Brad, you heard from Brett, Patrick, that kind of like standing up for what you believe in a little bit. It's almost part of the deal. That grit is appreciated. It's not a cockiness, it's confidence. And it's like, look, I get so many phone calls, I get so many solicitations. I can't listen to everybody. So I'm not going to do, it's almost like that commercial, that Bounty commercial versus that paper towel. I don't want that paper towel that drops a quarter through it when it gets wet. I want the one that holds it, right? Come on, you got to have some grit, baby.
And when you're selling
I don't want to do business with you if you don't got no grit.
Yeah, and when you're selling a salesperson, we recognize it as dealers. So let's go for final comments from Chris Hayek.
Yeah, some great stuff talked about today, but culture, we don't have enough time to talk about that, but hugely important, and I think a lot of dealers have gotten that wrong. The hours could be crazy, and everybody's going to work hard, but it's still got to be pleasant. As far as the vendors, you got to push through the noise. It's noise. It's very noisy there. You got people trying to hit numbers and sell cars, and you got to overcome that first no, to get in the door. And obviously believing in your product is going to help you tremendously. So important, especially in today's market. But as far as, contact, I'm on Facebook, I'm on LinkedIn, and I appreciate you guys having me on and getting after it. I had a great time today, and I look forward to maybe doing it sometime again in the future.
Yeah, I love it, Chris, man.
Absolutely.
You guys are moving it down there, man. I appreciate you coming on, and you guys are absolutely crushing it down there in South Florida. So great job.
Yeah, absolutely.
Appreciate that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Let's go to Brett Oob for closing comments.
I mean, I think we hit most of the points here. The one thing that I would add is that just from my experiences, when we used to hire at a couple of the vendors that I worked for, we'd go through these corporate initiatives where they'd say, well, let's just hire people that have been in the car business. And what I found was there's a lot of the people that we would get, and it's not indicative to the industry as a whole, but they weren't used to having to, because I heard you say earlier about them walking in to talk to general managers or general sales managers, being reverent about their time and being used to those being in a position of authority. But the reality of it is that when most car dealerships don't prospect, the customer calls them and then they respond to the customer. Whereas you can go on the vendor side, you got to walk into a place or you got to call a place that didn't ask you to call, didn't submit an inquiry, and you got to find the decision maker, create a need, and then you got to execute on it. And so that's why I think that we've seen a lot of people that come over to the vendor side that have a tough time once they get over here, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, it definitely does. The good news is, and I know vendors will connect with this, but the good news is that the dealerships, which Dave, you've referred to many times, is the dealerships are kind of ripe and fertile because you can get to a decision maker. You can get to the person who's running a multi-million-dollar organization just by walking in or making a call. So it's unique. This industry is unique in that way. We'll go to Brad Wise for closing comments.
I have all the respect in the world for the vendor side of things and what they do. And I know it's not an easy position going into a car dealership, especially if you're someone who's really new to an industry and dealing with some of the dynamic and spirited personalities. But I'm sure there's quite a few vendors listening today, and I guess my 3 tips would be is to make it easy to sign up. You'd be surprised that we're so busy that if there's a 7-page questionnaire and DMSs and all kinds of things that need to be done to even sign up for your product, that could be a detriment to getting signed up. Make it easy for them. The other thing is talk in basic terms. Don't think that we understand your acronyms, and talk slower and really, outline it in a way that makes sense and in more basic fashion. And then proven results. Decision makers in the automobile space have big egos and they're very competitive. Show us someone in the local market or show us someone in a big market that's doing a bang-up job with your product, and it'll go a long way.
Love it.
I agree with that.
Pat O'Brien.
Great words.
I'll tell you what, just to piggyback off of that and final comment on it is, one of the reasons that one of the main reasons what would make me want to get into a partnership with a vendor, because at the end of the day, we have to remember it is a partnership from both sides, okay? And one of the main things that I'm always going to see first, or I'm going to look for first, is somebody else that I know using that product and or service and doing an absolute bang-out job with it, okay? Now, what I've normally seen with those people is those vendors are generally accountable for what the services they provide and what they're going to offer their dealers, and then the dealers hold their people accountable to ensure that they're successful with that product or service. If not, we're just wasting money and throwing it out the window. And as we all know, nobody wants to do that at the end of the day. So, I think we got to hold our vendors accountable, and our vendors have to hold our dealers accountable to ensure success at the end of the day with it all.
Love it.
Great comments. Great panel. Thank you all so much for being on Auto Dealer Live today.
Yeah, thank you guys so much.
Thank you, guys. I enjoy it so much. Thank you, guys. Anytime.
All right. We have
Thank you.
Chris, Robin, Brad, Patrick, and Brett. Thank you. All right. So, Dave, man, what a great show.
Great show.
Great show. If I'm thinking about this and I'm looking into it, so many different takeaways. One of the things that Brad brought up, I think, at the very, very end there, that, in addition to making it easy to sign up, what a novel idea. But, I mean, really, and one of the other things, and I remember when he said, I don't understand some of your acronyms. I don't always assume that we understand some of the things that you're, the abbreviations and so forth and buzzwords that you're using. I remember you were here. You were actually one of the directors here about 3 or 4 years ago. There was a guy that was a former GM of a power, basically he was a GM of a, like a power boats motorcycle store.
Yep.
Remember him?
Yeah.
And he was talking in one of our sales meetings one day. Very successful. Matter of fact, he's a current general manager. Didn't do 100% well here, but he told the guys something that I use often, and he said, guys, he goes, I can't tell you how many demos I set through from companies trying to show me something. They walk through a 30-minute demo, And he goes, I wouldn't understand 30% of what they were talking about, but they never stopped to ask me, and I was too prideful and to ask them what they meant. So I just nodded my head and went, and I didn't buy because I didn't understand it.
Yeah, that's a big mistake.
That's a big deal, man.
It is a big deal.
Man, you can't assume somebody knows. I tell my guys that all the time. That was invaluable. If the only reason he came to work here was because of that.
Right.
You know, it was worth it because I've used that at least 100 times since he left. And because every time we do that, I say, slow down. Listen, don't assume somebody knows what you know.
Right.
And, you know, look, treat every single situation individually. So
absolutely.
I love it.
Great show. Hey, if you're a vendor, you had to have taken away nuggets today from all these dealers talking about how to communicate with them and what's effective and what's not. And what a great show, Auto Dealer Live. Hey, if you shared the show, you are in the hunt for these hats, the Signature Series new Serial Sales Pro hat.
How do we do that? We got 5 to give away, right?
And we have, don't we have Rockstar tickets for Vegas?
Yes, we have 5 Rockstar tickets.
I can't
and
speak.
We're going to be giving out 2 hats. What we'll do is at the end of the show, we'll be messaging people that won.
Okay.
Is that how we're doing it?
Yes, sir.
And all they had to do was share.
Share.
Can they still share if they just got in on it right now?
They can still share.
How about we give you 20 seconds from right now? All right. If you're still listening and you haven't shared, all you got to do is hit share. Hit share, and
Vegas.
you are qualified
Vegas, baby.
to get picked from 5 winners, 5 tickets to Rockstar.
Wow.
From Flick Fusion and Rockstar, compliments of them, and then also we're giving away some personal swag from here. This says Sales Pros Get Paid. It's my brand new book.
Like it.
Look at that bull on it,
Got
man.
the
I don't know. I
bull.
just like it. It's like a bull charging right there. That's pretty cool.
Very
huh?
cool.
It's got the signature, and then you got IPD hat, a little signature on the back. We got some Serial Sales Pro stuff. We got all kinds of little cool swag.
Goodies. All right.
I love you, man. Appreciate you.
Love you, brother. We're out. See you later, Auto World.